Hello folks, I'm LA Little and this is your daily TA wrap, where we take a look at these markets and we do it from a different perspective than the neoclassical one, asking ourselves each day, what happened today and what might it tell us about the coming days. I do this show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of a once more hailstorm Rocky Mountains. 3 in a row. We got it rocking up here. As far as the markets, just climbing again. It's the same story. If you want to contact me, this is the way to get to me tonight. I also do a show on Sunday. It's a weekly show. We take a broader perspective, try to outline the coming week or weeks. So tune in for that, or catch it on YouTube or here on the site. And email me or text me if you want me to try to answer any questions for you tonight. As far as the markets today, what did they do? Well, just climbed. We had the Dow just barely up. It was almost flat, 10 points higher, 16,543. S&P stacked on 4.5. They were up as high as 1896 at one point. Coming very close to the 4.4 break, the 4.4 high. That's 0.25% higher. The composite, they tacked on 0.5% again, 41.54. So the composite, the NDX driving again up almost 0.5 point, 36.50. The Russell, up big, down big, up big, almost 1%, 1113.87, up 10 and a quarter. Gold was up about $4 or $5 today. Silver up slightly. Dollar was up. Not a lot happening elsewhere. The real action was in the indexes. And why is that? Well, it's holiday trading. And I think I said last night that, I don't want to read too much into what's happening at this particular point in time, because you typically get, two things, right? Well, 3, I guess. You get volumes tail off. That increases the volatility, and it's typically bullish in front of holidays, and that's because you get a lot of people chasing a lot of stuff. And if you look at some of the stuff that was moving today, it's stuff that's just been totally wiped out. Here's 3D systems. What's happening with it? Who the heck knows? I suspect it's just small traders, smaller traders, and maybe some few big boys, gunning that thing, and it's been broken down and they're trying to make some money on it. I would think if we just go across most of these, you're going to see the same thing. Here's Tesla straight up from the bottom. How about like Netflix? I'm guessing this one's going to look the same. Yeah, they're all climbing, right? They're all getting money pushed back into them. Folks making money on them. These didn't get pushed that much. I think if we go over and look at some of these others like FireEye, you're probably going to see a larger move there. Not that big today. How about something like Lock, which got hit, which is also in that same sector? That doesn't look like a big move. That's a couple percent. So there's some of these were moving big today, some weren't. 3D was pointed out by one of the members today as moving big. As far as the indexes, though, and what's happening here, there's actually a lot taking place. I had a question about IYR, but it really was about how I do ABCD structures. So let's actually do some of those here as we go through this tonight, because there's actually quite a bit taking place, especially on this particular index. And so let me pop over. I'm grabbing my ABCD structures, and I'm going to pull this over so you can see it. I typically do 2 things that are slightly different than most people. I do percentage-based ABCD structures, where the A to B equals the C to D, and it's percentage-based. It's not arithmetic. So that's one thing I do. The other thing I do is I'm more conservative about the way I do them. For example, if I'm doing an ABCD structure and I'm trying to look at a good example here, well, let's pull up that IYR and then we'll come back to this, but let me just tackle this while I'm thinking about it. So the question here was, why did I do the ABCD structure the way I did it? And I don't know exactly what I did here, but let's just go through the ABCD structure on this one. So if I want to just start at some random place, I'll start at this one. I go to the first high that actually has a pullback, a lower high and a lower low. Now it doesn't have to come on the very next bar. You know, we could actually get a lower high but a higher low, for example. And then the bar after that, if it gives me a lower low, then the bar that had the highest high, that gives me this as my B point. Right? So I'm looking for the highest high that has a subsequent pullback that goes underneath the low of that high. That gives me the B point. So that's my A, that's my B. My C is going to be wherever the lowest low is before I get back above this high. So in this particular case, it's right there. So if I take all this off and draw it in, A, B, C, D structure here on up, and whatever that number is. Once that one fulfills, and it actually doesn't have to fulfill, once you get another ABCD structure inside of it, like right here's another one, even if this one hasn't finished, I've got another one right here. And that low comes down to actually this low and then back up again. And that one fulfills as well. So they both fulfilled. And then you keep going that way. So it's not just look at this chart and say, oh, I see. You know, a lot of people will just do this. That's an ABCD structure. No, I don't think so. You know, I mean, then you get these wild projections. You know, you take them a step at a time. Every little ABCD structure inside here is an ABCD structure to itself. Now, going back to the index, let me get the symbol in right. On the index itself, if I look at this guy, there's multiples are nested in here. Right, ABCD structures. And so let's quickly go through some of these and I'll show them to you. And it's actually relevant because this thing's trying to fill them. So we've got an ABCD structure here. That's the largest one that's in place. That's from the 814 up to about 885 almost, down to 1850 it looks like, and then back up. And what is that one? That's one that hasn't been completed, still in play, measures up to about 1922. But it's not the only one. There's others, right? Even on the daily time frame. For example, there's another one at the, let me find the numbers here, 1859, that's this one. So here's another one. And I'll just use a different color as I go through these. Here's another one from here to that point, back down and up again. And that one actually measures to 1904, so it's not quite done. A couple more points. And then there's another one inside this, and I'll use a different color. And this one goes to, let me get the numbers on this one. This one was, and this was actually done. There was another one here, 1850. Let me grab my pen. There was another one from 1850 up to the top. Well, actually, this one isn't done. This one actually measures up to slightly higher, 1906 or something. And then there was another one in here, but I forget where it is. So anyway, there's multiple ABCD structures nested inside of each other. Now when that happens, that gives it a higher probability that it's going to meet them, right? Because you got multiples of these pushing up. And you know, I thought we were going to get the break here, a lower low, and start breaking these, but it didn't. It held again. And starts pushing up again. And in matter of fact, you know, as I'm sitting here looking at it, here's another one here. There's another one that just formed in this spot. Right here. There's one here to there and back up. And that one looks like it's about done. And I don't even know what the number is on that one. That's 1860, 30, yeah, it's about done. Maybe 1899 is where it's trying to get to. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 nested ABCD structures, all the upside, all trying to complete, with the largest one pressing all the way up to, what is that, looks like 1922 on my notes. So you've got the biggest one to there, the lowest one is 1904, I think, or 1902, this one. So as they, in 1904, just above the 1902 that we already had. So as they push up, they're trying to complete these off. There's 2 or 3 of them right in this area, the 1904, in that area. And then if you go and look at them on the weekly time frame, there's a bunch of them there too, or actually not a bunch, but there are ABCD structures nested inside this one. And in particular, the biggest one is this one, and it's been going on for a while. It went up to here, back down, and it ended up going all the way down to here and then back up again. And that one measures up to 1914. So you got 1904, 1906 or 8 or whatever the other number was, 1914, 1922. All of these are sitting out there trying to complete. And, I don't know if they're going to complete. ABCD structures don't have to complete. I do them more conservatively so that most of the time they do complete, versus putting larger numbers out there that don't complete as often. It's just a better way, in my opinion, to measure it. You actually have another ABCD structure, even on the weekly, nested inside this that gives you even a higher target. And that one is that one's going to be to here, back down and up again. And then if you go over to the monthly, you actually have a larger one. And the monthly and that one I just showed you, those get you up to about 1950. And on the monthly, the ABCD structure is from here, up to there, back down, back up. That gets you to 1950. So anywhere from 1904 up to 1950, there's like 6 ABCD structures that want to be completed. And so to answer the question that was mailed to me, and to also use this as a great time to look at the S&P 500 and what's inside of it, it is working to slowly complete these one by one by one. Is it going to just take off and keep running? Folks, I don't see it. Unless this economy just takes off, or unless Europe or Japan or China or all of them start pushing more money into the system, right? QE type, buy bonds, take debt off the markets. I don't see how we move in a larger way on a sustained basis until we get some sort of a flush to cleanse this thing. And the flush just isn't happening. And instead what we're doing is we're getting this slow up and back and up and back and up and back and up, and you know what I mean? Over and over and over. I mean, this has been going on for 3 months now. Right? It's not like this is new. We've been seeing, look at this. How many times can you go up and back? That's, I can't even count them all, right? You can see them from the swing points. You got 6 there, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15 of them in 3 months. That's enough to drive you nuts. That's one a week. That's how crazy it's been. So, jagged market, trying to work off to these highs. Today gets within a point of this 4-4 high. That's the big high. In a lot of these charts, the 4-4 high is the big high. A lot of times it's the breakdown bar. In the case of the S&P, it was essentially a breakdown bar as well off the high. It gets within a point of it, within about 6 points of the high. Holiday trading, slow tomorrow. I would expect in the morning they're going to push it again. I don't doubt that whatsoever. Maybe they'll sell it off, but I suspect you'll see them out there pushing it again, because that's what happens on these kinds of days. By early afternoon, that tune will probably change, though, because you got a 3-day weekend and you got elections over in the Ukraine, and there could be issues geopolitical. So that's the S&P. Let's look at some of these others, because there's actually several of these, and I actually want to look at the ETFs as well. Here's the broad composite, NASDAQ. It gets over that swing point high, 19.2, you do 18.3, you get over it, back underneath it. That's a failure. Of course, right now, I would think they try to test it again tomorrow, get over it and stay over it. We'll see if they can. But it did come within just a few percentage points of finishing off an ABCD structure to the north. And that is from here back and up again. So it was like just a hair's whisper away from it. So you almost get a finish on an ABCD structure here on this, and it still hasn't got back to even the April 10th breakdown bar, let alone the 4th. That's the broad composite. That gives you a general sense of the weakness in general. The Dow not doing anything. The Dow can't even get back up to the highs, which is very different than the S&P. If we look at the NDX, so now we're narrowing down to the 100 top stocks in the NASDAQ. And what does it do? Just like the Dow, it comes within a whisper of the big top on the breakdown bar. It hasn't seen in almost 2 months. That's from the April 4th bar again. Gets almost to the top, 3663.78 's the top, gets to 3660. I would expect they try to hit it tomorrow, right? They're not going to just throw, they're not just going to throw in the towel because they're almost there. The other thing that did happen today, though, is you got another ABCD structure here that finished today. That one's done. So you got big resistance, ABCD structure finished, and if you walk over and look at Apple, which has been a huge driver, for the last 2 months or so here, Apple has, about a month and a half. Apple's gone up because of the financial engineering, 531 to 606, so that's 80 points off of 5, that's 15%. So you've had a 15% run in the biggest weighting, 22-23% of the NDX. And the NDX is just trying to get to the breakdown bar, and Apple actually looks like it's just about done again. So Apple, I don't think you're certainly not going to get 15% more out of this unless they, find some money in a vault somewhere that they didn't know they had. So Apple, that one doesn't look like it. The one that's starting to kick in, though, is Google. Google is really starting to get a ramp up after a big, long, slow decline. Google also, though, finishing off an ABCD structure. So you're seeing the same pattern here on multiple stocks, sectors, indexes, ABCDs being finished off. And that says, okay, these big guys that have been pushing this thing aren't probably going to contribute. What does that mean? The other guys need to. And as you notice here, even though you got a nice price extension, there's really no volume anymore. Nobody's really buying in quantity. If I go over, and let's not forget the Russell. Let's do the Russell next. So the Russell actually doesn't give us any signals tonight, but the Russell is still wallowing at the lows. I mean, it's pushing, and yes, it looks like the Russell will be the leader tomorrow, which also isn't surprising given the holiday trading, because those are usually the stocks that get pushed. Russell wants to try to make it back up into the zone, finish off a little ABCD structure on the way up, and probably fell there and come right back and try to break out these lows again. Okay, the other thing that happened, and I don't usually trade off the ETFs in terms of volumes and prices, but it was notable today that both the Qs and the SPY got over the 4-4 bar on the ETFs. So you do 30 million into 131 million, you get over it, back under it, you fell, and you finished off an ABCD structure. If you look at the SPY did the same thing. Here's the 4-4 bar. So 1.6 up there, it does half of that, less than half of that, a third of the volume. You come up it, you get over it, you back under it, you fail. So I don't know that I want to trade off the ETFs, but it was just notable that they both failed on the same bar, same day, in the same way. Let's go look at the sectors real quick. I was just starting to push through these. I ran out of time, but I got through most of them. Let's see which ones look interesting. So IYT gets over the highs. So that one's still nice and bullish, still pushing. Semiconductors couldn't do anything. XLB It's still got the retest regen that's in effect here, and it's still holding. And I'm talking about this bar, but it can't get over the top of it, which is what it needs to do to regenerate, right? And it can't get over this bar. It failed on it again today. That was the breakdown bar off the highs. So XLB still showing that it doesn't have what it needs to get higher. XLE, what does it do? We talked about it last night. XLE came off the highs with volume expansion, right? Not huge, but volume expansion. Climbs back up. What does it do? It tests it, fails again, comes off with volume expansion again. More so. Now what do? We climb right back up there, we test it again, and what do? We come off, or we're going to get volume expansion, probably not tomorrow, but maybe on Monday. XLE fails at the highs. Well, at the breakdown bar highs. XLF climbing back up to the highs. This one is going to try to get back up there to the 4.4 breakdown bar again. Or actually, it's at the 410 on this one. It's the 410 on this one. So trying to get to the 410. Some of these have 410 as their breakdown bar. Some of them 4.4. XLI, that one is failing at the 515 bar again. So here's the breakdown bar on this one. Goes over it, back under it, less volume, failure. And you know, there's failures on the on most of these. Now, the one that got over the highs and kept going was the XLK. Remember, it finally got over after 2 test failures. Gets a little bit of an extension today, but really nothing to write home about. And actually, the other one that's starting to kick in finally gets over in a convincing way, gets over the 410 bar, and it's going for the 4.4 breakdown bar as the XLV. And I haven't looked at the IBB in a while. Let me see what it looks like. Still struggling there at those highs. So something else is moving this. Maybe it's you know, PFE and these other guys that's moving it. I don't know who's moving it. Trying to think of the other ones. MRK. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly what's moving it because those aren't moving very big. So sector-wise, I don't see much happening. Let's look at the bonds, and I didn't get to these, so let's see what they look like. So the bonds look like they want to turn here. This looks like the turn. So bonds look like they want to turn. Let me see what the junk bonds look like. I haven't watched them in a while. They've been climbing like crazy, and they're kind of stuck. How about municipals? Now, these were the ones that really took off. They're seen as very safe now. A nice big run on those. Got a high volume high there. 109.17 hasn't been tested, so that still looks to be in good shape. Gold and silver. So gold tried to flip around, but really kind of gave most of it up today. Not much volume. That still looks kind of like no man's land. Silver, same sort of thing. They're close enough to the bottom that this isn't a bad place to think about them, but they can't get anything going. How about GDX, GDXJ? Let's see what these guys look like. Still haven't tested those lows. Getting close, got no volume. That's a good sign, actually. And GDXJ, same sort of thing. So there may be some more testing, some more probing of the lows on all of these. Let me see what overseas looks like. Actually, let me take a couple questions here before I do. I'm running out of time. I took too much time, so let me hit you first. TTM. Federico wants to know if you should buy it tomorrow. Let's see what it's doing. No, I wouldn't buy it coming back off with volume. Tata Motors. So this is, are you playing this off of a play with, you know, here, let's go see what the index looks like. I assume that you're interested in this because the indexes have been so strong, right? Because they had a huge run off the election. Let me see what the India looks like. Yeah, so that run is done, but now it's just a range, and that range is huge off that one bar. When you see something like this, you should always think that's a range, right? And that range, when you have a huge bar with huge volume expansion comparatively, right, that's going to stand for 2 or 3 months. We're on a daily, so that's going to stand for, probably 2 or 3 months on a daily. And so you may eventually get the test of the top, you may test the bottom first, but prices are going to be stuck in here, and you may even get just slightly under it or over it, probably not over it, but under it. But that general price range is probably going to hold for a while. And so, India's made its big run on the index. Now, going back to Tata Motors, let's see. Yeah, I guess my concern is this. It's first of all, I don't particularly like support that's anchored. I don't like it as much when it's anchored by a bar that they sell off, right? So you get a spike up, you end on the lows, right? And you get huge volume. Yeah, that's a decent bar, but you get huge volume. It's just not the greatest bar, right? You'd rather see it the other way around. So you're coming back into that, but then 2 days later you get a big spike down on volume. Then it recovers, right? India goes goofy. This thing pops with it. And then now it's coming back. I don't think this actually is where you want to play. If I were doing anything with India, I'd simply play India at the bottom of that range we just looked at. I put it on a weekly to see what it looks like. Doesn't look as bad on a weekly, does it? All right, so what I would do here, and I can't do it real quick for you, but I'd look at this and say, what is my ABCD? And I think it's done. That looks like it's just about done, if not done. So you've pretty much used up that move. So now you're going to have the next one, if it sets up, I don't know if it's going to set up or not. And actually, I misspoke earlier. I said that I want, here's a good example. I said that I want a lower low than this low. That's not true. I misspoke. I want a lower low than the previous bar that's lower than this high. So in this case, you've got this bar, and then this bar undercuts it. That gives me the lower low. So now I know I have an ABCD structure potentially. So there is another one inside this one, as long as it stays above this area. Sorry about that, but I did misspeak, and I see my mistake, so I have to correct it. So ABCD structure inside of it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't like this chart for some reason. I can't tell you why. The weekly certainly doesn't look as bad, but something just doesn't look right to me. Maybe I'll think about it more and tell you. I'll tell you when we try. Maybe here's why. So maybe here's the answer. So it's back up on the monthly. It's back up to 37.65. Gets over it, right? It's coming back. Gets over with no volume. On a monthly, that's a breakout. It tested it and failed. 38.92. Yeah, it tested it and failed last month. It's still over it this month, but boy, I'd just be very careful here. It just doesn't look right. All right, out of time. Tomorrow, light volume trading. Probably they push it in the morning, then they go off and go to the beach or something. Monday, holiday weekend. Tuesday, we're back to trading. Elections on Sunday. I think you're going to see this market once again. Now, maybe they creep up there and make new highs again, even on Tuesday. But they're probably going to roll right back over and come back down again. That's just what we're dealing with. I don't see what can take this higher at this particular time. And with the Russell, until the Russell turns, right, and actually shows me that it's going sideways instead of down on a short-term basis, I can't believe the rallies. I just can't believe them. Folks, have a great night. Thanks for joining me. Take care of yourself until next time. I'm LA. This is, and it was, your daily TA wrap. Have a great night. Have a great day tomorrow and the weekend. And I'll see you back here on Sunday. Until then, take care. Good night, folks.